Well, welcome and good day, everyone. And of course, we're glad you guys are joining us again for another Talk It Over. But this week and the next 3 weeks are going to be a little different because we are in At the Movies. And with At the Movies, you got to watch it live. There's no other way to watch it other than watching it live while it's available because you can't repost it because we are watching movies. Actually, bits of movies that Craig puts together and pulls spiritual truth out of those movies. So yeah, you gotta watch it live or watch it within a day or so of it being posted, and then it's all gone forever.
Yep.
So with that, yeah, this week is excellent movie. We got to watch a little bit of Maverick, which was quite interesting. I haven't seen the movie just yet. I've heard it's quite a good movie.
Yeah.
So seeing the snippets kind of got me intrigued to actually go watch it. But before we dive into any of that, of course, I am Ian. This is Michaela with me this week, which is great to have her back. And how's your week been? How have things been going for you the past week or so?
It's been good. Yeah. Enjoying the beautiful sunny weather. Had a few rainy days, which was also nice to just like get stuff done at home. Yeah, we have an upcoming trip next month, and so getting really excited about that. And just being in like beach town, palm trees, if that hints at where we're going. So yeah, just really excited for that.
Yeah, there's always a lot of excitement to a lead up to a trip, whether it's a destination that's a distance or even close.
Yeah.
There's always an excitement lead up to that. We just got back from a little camping weekend with the family and spent the weekend with my parents and got to enjoy that and celebrate little guy's birthday. So that was a lot of fun. He had a lot of fun. Couldn't get the kid off the bouncy pillow. If you know what those are.
Yeah.
That was the only thing he was requesting to do basically every day, and swimming. That was the other one.
Okay.
Bouncy pillow and swimming. Bouncy pillow and swimming. That consisted of most of a good chunk of the day. So that was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed that. And
what was your go-to activity?
my go-to activity, I think, was finding a very comfortable chair.
Okay.
And just relaxing. I was unable to participate in the swimming, just with my artwork healing. I'm not allowed to get it wet and stuff like that with public areas, pools, lakes, things like that. I have to be very careful.
Right.
So it heals correctly. So I was unable to partake in those, but that gave me other opportunities to actually sit and talk with my parents, which was kind of nice, kind of one-on-one, which was always nice. So that was good to kind of catch up with them a little bit, one-on-one, and just have that time with them, which was nice.
Good.
While Emmett's off and enjoying swimming and bouncy pillows with my wife and one of the grandparents. I always had a lot of fun with that. So yeah, that was really good.
Very different activities.
Very different activities, but that's okay. That's okay. It's always good. They had some fun activities for the kids the weekend as well, so he had a lot of fun just enjoying and doing that. So it was good.
Good to hear.
So yeah, At the Movies, great time of year. Love it. Always look forward to it. Always get to do a build, which we did. We converted our normal space into more of a movie theater, which was a lot of fun. Got the big screen, projector, raised seating.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. So if you're in the area and you'd like to join us, let us know. We can get you the information to come join us in person and get to experience the whole At the Movies experience, which of course is a lot of fun.
And we have snacks like popcorn and treats, so definitely
all the movie things that you would find at the theater.
Exactly.
Get to enjoy those, which is always a lot of fun each and every year.
Yeah.
So we're going to start off here with our scripture from Timothy. Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity. And I think that just kind of, emphasizes for us, whether you're younger, older, doesn't really matter your age. You need to continue to set that example that God set for us. In all those areas, we need to be setting that example for the people around us. I think it's very important, and continue just to do that each and every day. So our first question, Michaela, for you, think about a teacher or maybe a mentor, somebody in your life who's made an impact in your life, and what made them a good teacher?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think about my chaplain in high school. So she was kind of like a spiritual mentor for students. She would organize different like spiritual retreats or volunteer opportunities for people to participate in. And yeah, she was my safe place at school. Just thinking about if I had like hard things I was going through, if I wanted like encouragement or wisdom, just going to her. And I would call her a friend, honestly, during high school. Um, I think also just in terms of like my purpose and like my passion for what I'm meant to do,
Mhm.
she really called me to that. So I used to think that my sensitivity towards seeing like, injustices, people being like, poorly treated, just like all that kind of stuff, world issue
Mhm.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
I would cry about it and just feel like really like heavy about the content we learned about and just people's lives being so heavily impacted by these sad things. And she told me, it's not a weakness to be feeling these things, it's actually compassion. And that encouraged me to see that God can use this gift that I have of like for people, especially in vulnerable
Mhm.
situations, and figuring out how can I respond to that and be able to serve people who are in those
Mhm.
circumstances.
Mhm.
So she helped a lot with helping me to get to where I am today.
Mhm. So did you say she pulled out maybe more compassion for others, like out of you
Mhm.
in that?
Yeah, like instead of just constantly saying like, why am I the only one in my class that's like really upset about this like issue we've learned about, and just constantly feeling like maybe ashamed or like what's wrong with me. For her it
Mhm.
was like actually like Jesus, he also felt like he cried for people that were in like these really devastating situations, and he was angered by just injustice that people had to
Mhm.
face.
Mhm.
And seeing that like that's something that God has given me, and that's something I can use to serve and love other
Mhm.
people.
Mhm.
And so her reminding me of the principles that Jesus lived out and how I could do the same in the life that I
Mhm.
have.
Mhm. And then continue to use that for the next generation in coming alongside somebody in the same situation and being able to help them, work on those areas, bring more to light, and
Hmm.
continue to teach the things you've learned to the others, which is awesome. That's awesome.
Definitely. Yeah, who would that be for you?
For me, the one person that really sticks out, there's two. I had uh, like a grade 8 history teacher. The guy was excellent. Really brought school to life for me. Um, Again, just dealing with the pressures and stuff around us that cause you to feel less than you are, and having him bring that out, um, and just reminding you, it's good to be you and be who you are. The second was my martial arts instructor.
Mm.
He really helped me to be who I am, shaped me in a direction of, showing respect, bringing your best, and really brought that out of me at a young age, starting at the age of 7.
Wow.
And again, I've known this man for as long as from then until now, and I actually continue to train with him today.
Okay.
And my son is also training with him, and it's one of those things where he helped to bring out a structure of respect
Hmm.
for the adults, the people around you, showing respect to people of authority,
Yep.
um, pushing you personally further than maybe you think you could go, but pushing it to a point where it's bringing your best.
Mm.
Not necessarily you're going to be the best, but bringing your best
That's
and
good.
putting 100% into everything you do, whether it's, you know, at the club or out in society, is a big one. And that was the push for him was, we need to have kids, be respectful, be driven, want to go after things,
Hmm.
but not just at the club, in school, in the communities, in things around you. And that just it helped to build a bit of a perseverance, knowing that I could do more at that point in my life than I thought I could,
Hmm.
feeling less than I was, and him bringing out, know that you are worth more, um, really helped guide that direction to continue to persevere. And then making the decision to follow Christ took that to the next level.
Wow.
So
That's really cool.
it could be very different for me.
Yeah.
I could have had a different path by not having that kind of structure, that influence.
Hmm.
Parents can have that influence, but a lot of times we don't want to listen to parents. So having that other authority figure, um, bringing that made a big difference for me for sure.
So when you started martial arts, I mean, I know you were quite young, but did you know that this would impact like different areas of your life?
Not at that time, no. It wasn't until later that I started to realize, in my teens is when I started to realize that the emphasis wasn't necessarily the club, it was being a better person outside of that.
Mm.
Um, and and then yeah, the making the decision to follow Christ changed just to being a good person to actually following Christ and bringing Him into it
Right.
over just being a good person. And for me, that was a good launching point. Was start just to be the good, respectful person, to teach those values, and then for God to emphasize how those values work. It made a big difference for sure.
So happy to hear. Wow. I wouldn't expect something like that to have such an impact in different areas of life, but
Yeah,
that's
it's
good.
I can't say it's going to be the same for everybody. I can't say
Right.
every club's the same for everybody. That's a whole different experience for everybody. But what he was teaching me then is what he's still teaching now. And so for me, that was a big push for Emmett to be involved in that, and that he would have somebody else that could be that authority for him,
Mhm.
that would maybe make a bit of an impact on him, not just me, but impact for him as well,
Yeah,
just because of what it did for me. So.
that's really cool. Have you told your instructor the impact he's had on your life?
Surprisingly, no. It's one of those things I really do need to do.
Yeah.
I just can never seem to find the words to say.
Right.
I like go to do it and then like it just kind of doesn't make sense, and then I just don't. So I think I need to sit, write it out, have somebody read it and go through it, and then really explain the impact that they've made.
It could just
But
be through a card. I'm with you. I'm like a message type of person. Think about it for a while, percolate, and then like write it out
yeah, put it
instead of
in notes,
verbally.
reread it, then copy that to the message, and then send it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
a little
Yeah,
forethought.
because honestly, telling people, like even ourselves, right, we won't always know the impact we have on people's
Yeah.
lives. But if we can tell them, oh, I'm sure he would be like so blessed to
Yeah,
hear that from you.
yeah. And it's something that's been on my mind, something I need to do, and it's just getting it down on paper or electronic device that I can actually put it together.
Yeah.
All right, so a lot of neat parts, of course, in at the movies, especially with this message. Was there, I'd say, a specific part that stood out to you, something that was really just touched you in that moment through the message this week?
Um, I think it was that First Timothy verse, just talking about like not being discouraged by our age, by being young, but just being able to live an example of how Christ, called us to live. And I can easily fall into that mindset of like, I'm too young for this. What kind of influence can I have? Like, can I lead people well because I'm still quite young? And especially when I'm leading people who are older than me, it feels weird sometimes. I don't know if you feel
Yeah,
that too.
yeah,
And so yeah, I guess just being able to see that, like, even if we don't realize that we're having an influence on people, they can still, like, they witness what we're doing, how we're
yeah.
living, and that still, we do still have that influence, whether it's intentional or not.
Hmm.
And just seeing that, I shouldn't belittle what God has done in my life
Yeah,
so far. And even though it's only been, 25 years, that's still a lot of life.
yeah,
And I'm not going to admit that I have more life experience than people, older than me, even yourself,
yeah,
but just that I still have something to contribute.
yes, yeah.
Like we're all here with gifts, with a purpose, and God can use each of us in any place of life that we're in. And so, yeah, just really thankful for that reminder that I do have influence.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that reminder of influence and the circle of influence you have with the people around you is very important to keep that in mind because yeah, sometimes you get that thought that I don't have enough experience or I don't, I don't bring enough to the conversation to really have input.
Yeah,
But yet we still do. We have that ability to bring input and direction into different situations.
exactly. Yeah. What does that look like for you?
Ooh, for me, I think it was the point in the message where we'll refer to the movie, um, where Maverick was told he's not needed anymore. He's,
Mm.
you know, he's just not needed. He doesn't need to be there. And sometimes we need to be able to show what we're doing, show that we can, to maybe even inspire others to realize this is possible when things seem really bleak. And yeah, I think it's for me. It's just yeah, being able to remember that I bring things to the table, but I need to be able to show them.
Mhm.
I need to be able to lead in those areas that I know I'm confident in and not try to second guess myself, but really just know, no, I need to do this to lead. I need to teach people that, no, this is possible. You can do this. no matter what your background is, no matter what, where you're from, whatever it is, you can do many things. And, you know, uh, doing Life Kids, when I was involved with Life Kids, and every Sunday we could barely figure out how to get a label printer to work to print out kids' names.
Yeah.
That was a challenge for us, and as that team, we were just not very tech savvy, and I don't claim to be tech savvy by any means. But we went from not figuring out a label maker to running Zoom meetings and doing Life Kids completely online, connecting kids in different locations and bringing them all together to be able to be still involved in the Life Kids ministry in the time and through COVID, and those things just kind of led me to believe now that no, I can do more than figuring out a label maker. I can actually do more things. I am more capable, I guess,
Yeah.
than I expected.
Mhm.
And so being able to do that, it's like, okay, I can do these things. So there's areas that I'm confident in, I should be able to do even more.
Right.
So I think, yeah, just for me, that reminder of no, the areas that I'm confident in, I can definitely continue to show and do. And the areas I'm not confident in, I can still be involved in some way,
Mhm.
that I can still bring something to the table, even if it's not a strong point. I can still bring that and show what I can do.
Well, now you're leading the productions team, all about tech here.
Yeah,
So
it's a very different shift on how it is.
yeah.
But it's all about just continuing to adapt as we move forward, and trying new things and learning new stuff and being open to learning that stuff.
Yeah.
And then being able to show it or be shown some of it and then start to move along. So
Definitely.
yeah, I thought that was a really good part that Craig brought in, where yeah, sometimes we just need to show people. We just need to show them that we can and be a part and do.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are your initial thoughts or feelings when you think about God calling you to teach?
I guess it goes back to that and other question, just thinking like, oh, what do I have to teach? I'm young. um, but honestly, I've been thinking more about it lately. So I'm at a place in my faith where I know, I mean, I'm still learning, but I have a pretty solid foundation of like, how does God call us to live? I've had the last few years of my life just like deeply diving into the word, and because I really started taking my faith seriously in university. So that was only a few years ago. And I was, a baby in my walk. And now that I've grown up in my faith a bit, now I feel like I can speak to things more and be able to lead and, speak life and like talk about, these different principles in the Bible to others. Because one, I know about them, I'm living them out, and then I can, set that example for other people. So I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about mentorship for me to mentor someone. Like I have a dream of mentoring like younger women or girls. Just being able to, walk alongside them, get to learn their stories, be able to speak into their lives, because I've had that in my life. Different women speaking into me and just helping me figure out this, life journey that we're on. And so, yeah, just praying that God will open that door for me whatever that looks like. And realizing that it's not about me saying, I know everything and here's what I'm going to teach you, but just like the Holy Spirit working through me and like being able to touch people's lives. And as we learn, as we learn more things, we learn that we don't know a lot.
Yeah.
Which I'm slowly figuring out more and more. But yeah, so it makes me nervous. But it also gets me excited because it means more lives impacted. Like I get to be in relationship with more people. So now it's just like, what opportunities, God, do you have for me to teach? Yeah. And I don't have a kid. I don't have kids yet. So I know like for you, that would be a very practical example right now.
Yep.
And how you're teaching.
Yep.
But I'm sure are there other ways that you're also thinking about that?
Yeah, teaching scares me.
Yeah.
It just does. I'm very much more of a doer than a teacher by far. I find myself again in the same scenario of I can't always put it into words or I can't explain it really well, but I can do it. It's just
Right.
the explaining part and what's coming out with write it down to what are the steps. I'm like, I had no idea. I just know how to go from here to there, and it'll get there. Like it's hard to explain. So the
Yeah.
teaching for me is difficult. I find it a bit scary because yeah, I don't find myself a great teacher because I just can't explain things extremely well in like transitioning thoughts or ideas
Mm.
into words, um, which again makes it difficult. And I'm sure people find it difficult to do things with me because of that. I can't explain. Um, but taking things, taking things apart, putting it together, I can see how it all comes apart in my head. It's just I can't
Yeah,
put it down.
I get that. I do.
So so being called to teach, it's like, oh my goodness, how am I gonna? And that's just practical stuff. Trying to teach the word. How am I going to be able to explain, the gospel? How can I explain this to people around me when I have a hard time just explaining things in general? Um, so I know it's something that we're called to do. It's something we, need to lead other people to. I just have to find the right vocation, I guess,
Mhm.
that fits with how I work to be able to teach. Practically showing people how to do things I find is easier than explaining them. So at work it's a little easier. We have a new guy. He's wants to become an apprentice. So showing him we need this comes apart. This is how it works. I can explain that, but writing that down on instructions is very difficult. I find for sure. So I think it's finding the right way to explain things, or right way for me to teach what God's got me to teach
Mhm.
in a way that I can explain that people will understand.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because I'm also like you, and I honestly find that words are very hard.
They are.
And I want to become a better communicator.
Yep.
But thinking about your strength of like showing people how to do something versus verbally explaining it, like that's still a gift and a strength. Because even just thinking about that Timothy verse, like we're
Yeah.
called to live out as an example. And so if you're living out, like even if it's basic, here's how you do ABCD, just by like you doing it and other people watching, like there's different types of learners,
There is. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So maybe that will be helpful for some, maybe not as helpful for others,
Yeah.
but there's still that group of people that you can be teaching
Yeah.
with that kind of, teaching style, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. A very practical take on things.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great question because yeah, the thoughts, feelings, it's I just find it scary. It just scares me, the teaching part, because I'm like, I don't know how much I can bring to the table. But again, that's that self-doubt, right? That how much can I bring to the table? But I know I can bring more to the table than what I think I can. And
Hmm.
I have to remember that no, I can bring 100% of something,
Right.
um, because what I can bring is different than what you can bring or what somebody else can bring. Just a different view, a different vantage point, a different explanation of the same thing.
Hmm.
So just keeping that in mind, I think, is going to help me to continue to be teaching better. But I think for me at the moment, it's showing how do I live things, how do I do things, and people seeing how I live, how I do things, might be enough to spark them to ask questions, maybe help me to be a bit more vocal explanation on things.
So, in terms of parenting, would you say that's the same with like, you're showing an example just by what you do?
Yep, I would say that's a big part of it is showing. Um, because yeah, sometimes explaining it, I can't explain it well, but to show it, yeah, for Emmett, what that looks like is very different, and helping to reinforce things for him on, who he is, who God made him to be,
Mhm.
and just explaining that he's created by God, he was created uniquely. The journey he's been on is a journey that God has for him,
Yeah.
um, and I don't have the same things, I haven't gone through the same things, but that's not my journey, that's not my story. But that's his story, and helping him to embrace that this is part of the journey, part of the story, and helping him to be able to be rooted in that and know that this is God's plan,
Mhm.
and that he can explain that to people that, well, why did this happen? Why were this? Well, this is God's plan, and he can explain that to them. I think is going to be helpful for him later on in life as he gets a bit older. So being able to just reinforce that for him to know that this is the journey, that he'll find his purpose, find his, calling, what that might be, and hoping that people around him that are, again, older, that aren't me, because again, there's things he's not going to listen to from me, but having other, authority figures, other, mentors, people around him that can help in those areas to help reinforce things for him would be, exactly what we would want for him to have. So building that community around us of people that have different ways of explaining, different ways of doing things, different ways of, looking at what God says in the gospel, I think will be helpful for him as he grows on his journey.
Yeah.
But my wife is by far the communicator. So when it comes to explaining, communicating things, she's the one that does that. But if it's showing how to do things or what to do with them, he usually comes to me and says, "Hey, can you help me show me this? Can you show me what to do? How do I work this?" And when he's frustrated with something, I'll try to show him instead of explain it, because he'll understand from me the showing over explaining. So
Right. Well, you and Leanne make a good team then.
we try to. We certainly do. Sometimes, a doer and a communicator, we butt heads a bit because she's trying to explain something and I'm like looking at it at a very practical sense, and
It's not working.
it doesn't. The communication and the practical just don't cross. We're explaining the exact same things, but can't understand exactly how each other's explaining it. But that's all part of, again, just working on the communication part and the understanding of each other, how we all function. So
Yeah, totally.
okay, so I'm going to read Titus 2, verses 7 and 8. All right, so, and you yourself must be an example to them by doing good works of every kind. Let everything you do reflect the integrity and seriousness of your teaching. Teach the truth so that your teaching can't be criticized. Then those who oppose us will be ashamed and have nothing bad to say about us. What example is your life reflecting? And what are some things you want to keep doing? And what are some things you want to change, if anything?
Oh, yes, there's definitely things I need and want to change. um, yeah, to be honest, I think I can often focus on all the things I need to change rather than like the things I want to keep doing.
Yeah.
And just get so overwhelmed with the list of things of like, oh no, I'm not great at this, or this is a weak spot, or this is hurting a person and I need to change that. And I've been challenged to not focus on like that long list, but just one step at a time. So I've been reading a lot of like Pastor Craig's leadership podcasts, thinking about like habits. And I, as much as I want to change like 10 bad habits and replace those with good ones, it's just not realistic and it's not going to last.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay, what's one habit that I want to change? And so right now that's having like a better morning routine.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to go to sleep on like early, wake up early, being able to like work out, be in the word, have like intentional prayer time, and then kind of be set for the day.
Yep.
And it's hard. Like I wake up, it's been since I guess like Thursday or something since I've started this. So very recent. And it helps that, my husband is also doing it too, waking up early so we could both keep each other accountable, encourage each other, even though we're like tired and like, oh man, this stinks. Our body's not used to it.
Yep.
But yeah, I think just seeing it's more than just about like waking up early. Like for me, it's also about like, don't hit snooze. Which is very hard because I would hit snooze like 3-4 times before. And now, and I haven't done it at all since Wednesday, which I'm like, oh, thank you, God. But just realizing like, I don't know, I think just having a good way to start the day, which actually starts at night, which is kind of a different way of framing things. Like my morning routine starts at night. And me choosing, like, of course, there's good things I could be doing, later at night, but like the better is to go to sleep so that I have a good night rest, wake up feeling energized, and like be able to focus more. And seeing that, like, if I'm more physically active with workouts, that will help me to be like more productive, more like motivated, even just like more confident, and thinking about like being in the word first thing in the morning. That helps to set my day of like, okay, I need to focus on God because literally that's the most important thing. Yeah, so trying to work on those. That's kind of my first step is there's still that list at the back of my mind of those other things. Yeah, I guess one thing to keep doing, my husband and I have been really intentional about like we really want to pray together at least a couple times a week. And so I really want to continue that because there's things that we're trying to figure out individually and as a couple. And ultimately, we just got to bring it to God.
Mm-hmm.
Take time to, bring our requests to Him, but also give God praise together. And that bonds us and brings us closer together.
Mm-hmm.
So I value those moments where you can
Mm-hmm.
pray together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How about for you?
Oh, I think what my life is reflecting is the values that I hold, but also that I'm not perfect.
Mm.
I think that's kind of where it sits. And people realizing that, I'm not perfect, but I'm different. There's a difference between me and the people around me. Um, but I don't want to hold myself to perfection by any means because I know I'm not perfect and I won't be perfect till I'm not here anymore.
Yeah.
So I don't want to hold that as a, I'm striving for perfection, but I'm working towards just being better. And that people can see and they know things are different for me, that I'm not just the same, that God's in my life, He's a part of my life, the values I hold reflect Him. Um, but I realize that I know I'm not perfect, and I know that people would see that I'm not perfect and know that. I think that's kind of what that reflects for me.
Mm.
Um, Things I want to keep doing. I want to keep in my mindset of training, not trying.
Mhm.
That's been a big push this year for me, because I find myself, getting on the Bible app and then, I'm looking for that streak. And then I tend to start focusing on the streak over what God's trying to speak to me,
Okay.
through reading scripture. And so that trying mindset is I'm just trying to keep the streak, keep the streak, keep the streak, but not really, focusing on the word or what God's teaching me. So the training mindset for me is I'm going to focus on the word. If I miss the day and the streak disappears, it disappears. It's whatever. That's not what it's about. It's about being consistent in reading what God is trying to speak to me, trying to tell me.
Mhm.
Um, and so for me, that's something I want to continue. And so far, I've been continuing that. We hit a streak of whatever 19, then we're back to one, but that's okay. I'm not
Yeah.
losing it um, as a setback.
Mhm.
It's just okay. It happened. Let's just pick up from one, and we'll just keep moving on.
Right.
Year before it would be, oh, streak's done. I would drop it, and I would drop it. So this has been much more consistent. So that mindset of training, not trying, has been a good one, and I want to
Mhm.
maintain that. Things I want to change. Yeah, there's a list. There's such a list, and I think I can agree with you, Michaela, that we tend to have a big list of things we want to change, but can't
Yeah.
change everything all at once. Um, but I would like to say a better routine, similar to kind of what you've started.
Okay.
I'd like to find a better routine in that sense. Certainly more difficult with a kid, a little guy. It changes the routine. I had a good routine um, prior to him, and it changes. It just
Mm.
changes how your routine functions. To have a routine, it almost seems chaotic, but it's a routine that we've had for quite a while, and we
Okay.
tend to run on that routine. But I'd like to be able to change that routine a bit, try to make it a little bit better, in small steps, increments.
Mhm.
We've been working on that we may not necessarily fall asleep right away, but we're up in bed at 10:30.
Mhm.
That's kind of the goal, that we both go at 10:30. Before it was, Leanne would go up earlier, I would stay up longer to do Emmett's final change before I go to bed, which still unfortunately needs to be later, um, so he doesn't, wake up all wet and things in the morning.
Yep.
So it needs to be fairly late. So we're trying to see how early we can do it without it causing a problem. So slow increments, but yeah, I really would like to work on that routine better. The snooze button is awful.
Yeah.
It is by far awful. I definitely hit it once, at least once every morning. It's a for sure. That's just as it's almost like I don't even think about it. Just kind of the arm
Mhm.
flops over and whack, and it's like I don't even think about it. And there's times I don't even like, did I actually hit that? And then I will look and it's like the alarm's going off. Well, that must be the first one. Look at the time and no, this is definitely the second. I don't remember hitting the snooze. So again, trying to work out of that
Yeah.
that routine in the morning of not the snooze button, get up, give me that extra 10 minutes in the morning. I think again would make a different start to the morning, allow me maybe to be a bit more focused in the morning, not so dragging.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the routine is a big one, and just changing things, but in small increments, I think is the key to it. Don't try to say, okay, I'm going to be in bed by 9, I'm going to be up by 6, and just implement that right away. So try that; it just doesn't work. You get like a night, a morning, and then you're like, holy moly,
I'm out.
life takes over, and again, your routine shifts again. And not to say kids are bad by any means, but they shift the routine.
I
They just
couldn't
shift the
imagine.
routine. It runs more on their schedule, at least for the first while. So it's just adapting to that, but it's trying then to get back once they're a little bit older to get back to a bit more of a regular routine prior to,
Right.
which is a task. It is because you get set in that routine for so long, and again, it's hard to break routines
Yes.
because once you're setting them, they just kind of keep staying set, and it's hard to break them because you got to change that mindset. You got to change the neurological paths
Oh,
to get
yes.
yourself to change your thinking on how you're doing things and how you're working through those. But
Exactly. Oh my goodness. I just think about, I really recommend Craig's podcast. It's called like 8 habits that like every leader needs. And the
Yep.
first one is about not snoozing. So you might find that helpful. But just a quick thought. Just thinking about like in order to have like new habits and establish those, we need to think about like the who before the do.
yes,
And like who do we want to be? What is our identity? Like I am a I'm a healthy person, or like I'm a morning person. Like being able to step into those identities and like putting those habits into place to then back up like, yes, I am a healthy person because I do A, B, C, D.
Yep.
So figuring out like who do you want to be? Who do you want to identify as? And then what habits will back that up?
Yep.
Not easy, but definitely worth
It's work.
figuring
It's
out.
work, and you got to put in the work to get the payoff at the end, right? It's all about putting in the time ahead in any area of our lives. It's all about training, not trying,
Yes.
and working towards it, and accepting that failures will happen. But it's okay.
Yep.
It's okay to have a failure. It's okay to have a setback because we learn from that, and we can continue to move on. And just working on that each and every day certainly can make a huge difference in your daily routine, in your life, the people that you influence, the people that are around you that you have influence in, can certainly make a big difference when you get into a great routine that really reflects God and really exudes that as people see you, and know that you're different and what's that difference, and maybe get them to ask questions. Why are you different? What's the difference? How did you get there? We've had those many times with people around us through the medical stuff about how did we get through this? How did you do this? We've seen a lot of families separate, divorce because of all the medical stuff, and they're always curious at how we've been able to maintain a marriage through all the medical stuff, all the things going on, all the chaos. And it's a simple that God's got us on a plan. We trusted in Him, and He's the one leading us the direction we're going, and that's it. I can't explain anything other than that. That's just it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all about mindset and how you're wanting to work towards and moving forward in those areas. Well, wow, great conversation.
Yeah.
And of course, we want to thank you guys for joining us again for another Talk It Over. We want to thank the tech team behind us again for making this all possible and making it available for you. And just again, as a reminder, we are at the movies, so everything is live. So you need to catch it kind of day of, and then it's gone. So stay up, stay on top of it, and then you can of course be current with our Talk It Overs for the next 3 weeks. And we should have a good time with the next movies coming up. I don't know what they are, but it should be excellent. So you're going to want to tune into those. And we always want to remember, whoever finds God finds life.